Welcome to this episode of the Building Texas Show. I'm excited to be in Lakeway, Texas today and talking to Mayor Tom Gilgore about Lakeway and really everything leading into the Texas Hill Country out of Austin. Lakeway is beautifully situated just west of Austin and has become a residential hub. And so that is a fun side of building cities. And I'm excited to talk to you today, Mayor Kilgore. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Justin. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to be here with you.
Well, we're talking about Lakeway, and I want to start with what inspired you to run for mayor in Lakeway?
Well, thank you. Yes. So I am the mayor of Lakeway. I have been mayor for 4.5 years now. I have a year and a half remaining on my third and final term. My city has term limits. And so after 3 terms as mayor, 6 years, you are obligated to step off the dais and let someone else come on. And so that will happen in May of 2027. And we'll see, in the words of George Washington to John Adams, to my successor, I will be fully out and you will be fully in, and we will see who is the happier. So at that point. But I was inspired to serve just because I love this community. I have been serving our nation since I was 17 years old and took the oath of office on the plains at West Point to join the United States Army. And I have continued a career of public service throughout my public employment, through my private sector employment, giving back to the community, and now in my retirement, which, as my wife points out, I have failed once again a retirement. And so I have been the mayor of Lakeway for 4.5 years to take care of my fellow residents and to help position this city for what we do for the next 10 to 15 years.
Well, thank you for your service and for everything you've done to get to this point. And I commend anyone that runs for public office in this way, particularly in retirement. You have options, and this is a great one to find great purpose, I think, locally in a community. But as I've gone across it and really talked to mayors across the state, every community is a little bit different depending on what the priorities of that community are. And when I look at Lakeway, I just see the growth. And that's not always a popular word in Texas, this part of Texas in particular. But what has that been like in the last 4.5 years of seeing Lakeway expand?
Well, I can tell you that as mayor, before I was elected and before I was responsible for the financial health of the city and what it would be like in the years after I'm gone, I had a much different view as to what my priorities were. And growth has been one of the most difficult things for long-term residents of Lakeway to understand. We built a great community, great green space, great schools, great access to the larger city of Austin. You're on the edge of the hill country, so you can always get out into the hill country if you're interested in that portion, to be an outdoorsman, getting out to hunting areas, fishing, boating. So it's a very idyllic life. But when you have that, it attracts more people because it's an idyllic life. And people who want to raise their children in good school districts with good, safe neighborhoods with strong police protections flock to Lakeway. So between the 2010 census and the 2020 census, our city roughly doubled in size. And since the 2020 census, we have continued to add population. People understand that they would like to live here for all of those reasons, for the parks, the recreation, the community events, the small town feel of the city of Lakeway. And that's what they're moving to. But that creates other issues. We are strained on our road structure because Lakeway is bounded by 2 state highways, and I can't control the expansion of a state highway. We can control our internal roads. We can build the things we need to do, and we have passed bonds to improve local infrastructure, to rebuild our parks, and to position ourselves for the next 15 to 20 years of growth. But there are growing pains, and you often hear people say the city needs to have a moratorium on new growth and new building. And of course, in the state of Texas, cities are very limited in that authority. We are a strong property rights state. People have the right to develop or redevelop their property within our existing zoning laws, but we literally cannot, as some would ask, turn up the tap, pull up the drawbridge, and say enough is enough. And so, because of that, I've had to as I said, I had one set of views when I started in office, and now my views are our growth as we continue needs to be towards balancing our residential lifestyle with new commercial, residential, and office work along the state highways to attract more sales taxes so that we can better balance our budget going forward and not put all of that burden on the existing homeowners and property owners. We certainly don't want to become California before their proposition with limited property taxes. We want to keep our homeowners in their homes, particularly as they age, and not put an excessive tax burden on them.
Well, it's an interesting point because oftentimes we talk about taxes and everybody talks property taxes. And I appreciate what you've shared there. It's a very good summary of we're a private property rights state. We want people to own and develop and use their property where they see fit and within the bounds of zoning laws and local laws. But that isn't our only source of revenue in a city, and that has to balance with the economic development of the business and other revenue cycles that you bring in, and that's where I think you've got an interesting position with your sister cities and how you work together to balance that and bring the right type of retail or industry to your community with still keeping it the idyllic Lakeway that we know today.
Well, I do agree. I think we have had to change some people's minds and get them to understand that we needed to attract our own larger retail businesses, better commercial businesses that will attract and pay those sales taxes. We have a much more active now economic development committee of volunteers. We opened it up not just to residents, but also to business owners who have businesses in the city of Lakeway. And we're emphasizing the importance of shopping locally, keeping your tax dollars inside our city. And we even worked with those businesses and have the first City of Lakeway sponsored billboard out
Wow.
on the state highway where the city logo and the Buy Local campaign logo are on the billboard. So we're the sponsor, but 8 businesses partnered with the city to pay for the billboard. And those logos of the 8 businesses are the first that we're partnering with for a 6-month period to advertise these local businesses and the city of Lakeway encouraging you to shop local. And that's part of our initiative to work with business to get people to understand there are great opportunities here. Each month when I give my mayor's Facebook Live to talk about upcoming city council meetings and events, one of the things I do is I pick 2 to 4 businesses and I give them a shout out at the end of that Facebook to remind people, hey, if you're looking for a great sushi restaurant, or if you're looking for a great burger, here's where you need to go. You don't have to go downtown. You can stay right here. And in fact, our Economic Development Committee sponsored a Food of the Month competition. So we've already had the best burger competition, and we've already had the best Mexican food competition. And I believe we're going to move on to pizza next. Not necessarily the best part of the food chain, but certainly popular things for our residents and their young kids.
Well, and to that point of sales tax, it's your dry cleaners, it's your grocery stores, it's your everyday spending that if you're commuting into Austin, as an example, you might pick up your curbside order on the way out of town. But it really is more impactful for your community if you do that in Lakeway proper and you make sure that that sales tax stays locally because
That is exactly correct. Yes.
it balances the need for tourism too. I know the lake is an attractant, but do you see a lot of tourism in Lakeway?
Oh, yes. So, and it's almost, we have a little joke. When the lake is full, the alcohol beverage tax revenues spike during the summer.
Yeah.
So when there's water in the lake, we get far more tourists to come out. There's far more activity on the lake, far more people staying. We have 3 marinas in Lakeway, and we have a world-class resort that was the founding anchor for Lakeway, the Lakeway Resort, and they attract a lot of business. And so we get that tourism, especially during the summer. We also have great special events. For example, the city of Lakeway, along with our sister city Bee Cave, we sponsor the Special Olympics of Texas Winter Games, and they will be here a month from now with their Texas Leadership Conference, as well as the Winter Games that will be here in Lakeway for now the 5th year. It's one of the initiatives I started when I was first elected, and this is year 5 of having the Special Olympics come to Lakeway.
What an incredible, meaningful event to host in Lakeway for people all over the state in a community that can really celebrate coming together that way. So thank you for doing that.
Of course, it's a part of our volunteer spirit because they need hundreds of volunteers to run the event. They never are lacking for volunteer slots when they come here to Lakeway and Bee Cave. And we, as I say to the Olympians, and I say to their families, we, the city, get and our residents get far more out of this than just hosting an event. We get to cheer you on, and we get to welcome you to our community, and we get to see the real spirit of competition and athleticism. And so that kind of event will bring about 1,200 athletes, a few thousand family members, and frankly, will fill every hotel room in Lakeway and Bee Cave and a number of Airbnbs for 4 days. So it's a great tourist event.
And when we look at hotel beds like that, um, I've as I've worked with mayors and talked to cities across the state, they always have events or things like what you're describing that bring people in. So I love that you have this, but hotel occupancy tax and heads in beds is a full time commitment. When you think about how do we get events to the Lakeway Resort, how do we get, and that's not just the Lakeway Resort making that happen. I know they do a lot, but the city comes alongside on those kind of events and is always welcoming businesses to think about having their conventions in these places because that makes a huge impact locally on your budget and on your revenue.
Indeed. In fact, we actually have dedicated staff to help manage hotel occupancy tax requests for funding, as well as partnering with the under the direct charter of the assistant city manager and our local business consultant, where we go to multiple trade fairs, retail shows to explain the availability of facilities in Lakeway, what they can get, and the proximity to Austin without being in the big downtown area and paying downtown prices. And so we're continuing to do that. This is, I think, year 2, maybe 2.5 in trying to do that. And we're starting to have our name be put on the map for a lot of different things, which we certainly welcome.
Another great thing to celebrate. Um, you've mentioned your sister city and Bee Cave, and then you have one of few enclaves in Texas in your community as well. So it brings me to the question around how do you work with other cities? How is that collaboration put in place? And I've seen cities that silo and I've seen cities that collaborate. Where would you put yourself?
I believe we're very collaborative with our sister city as well as the village of the Hills, which is, totally surrounded by the city of Lakeway. And so I think you see it best when there's an emergency.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're in Western Travis County and somebody says, what, for instance, if they're actually going to get an ice storm or some winter storm tonight or over the weekend or a bad thunderstorm, and they say, okay, what equipment do we have in Western Travis County to take care of people? And they'll go, well, Lakeway has a salt truck and a brine truck. And okay, what else do we have in Western Travis County? Lakeway has a salt truck and a
Yeah.
brine truck. That's it. Travis County doesn't have any equipment out here. Bee Cave doesn't have a full public works department. The Village of the Hills doesn't have a works department. So we have to share resources. We have to work together. The police officers have a great in a working relationship. We work really well with our emergency service districts. And so it has to be cooperative. There are, we do compete for some things. I mean, BK landed at Trader Joe's that we were actively trying to recruit. So, it's okay. They had space. We didn't have the space ready to go. And so there are those. But I would say by and large, the cities work very well together, particularly in an emergency situation or in matters of public safety. And I think that's, as leaders, that has to be our number one priority. We can't allow that to be siloed in any way.
I appreciate you putting it that way. As public servants, I really do look at the role and responsibility of creating the environment for success. You're not picking winners and losers, but you're making investments to have the available industrial space, to have the salt and brine truck, to have those things that are going to create an environment for helping people in emergencies or being ready to land those economic opportunities when they come up. And it's not by accident that those things happen. In the city world, we look at our master plans very often. And I wonder how many residents know to look at that master plan and see that city work takes a long time. The decision
Well,
today in council has been a long time coming. And if you're showing up today for the first time, I would refer you back to the master plan very often.
yes, quite often. I think our residents are fairly in tune with the city's master plan and our comprehensive plan. One of the things that's interesting is we are ready to adopt a 2026 comprehensive plan. We have been working on that for just over 2 years. It's a scheduled annual 5-year review of the last plan that we adopted in 2019. So we're sort of right on track for getting that adopted and moved into the city. And we held 4 town halls, which were well attended. We had multiple events online, and we received thousands of comments from our residents about the comprehensive plan and what they wanted to see going forward. And at first, I was looking at so we have roughly 22,000 residents right now, and at first I was looking at the number of comments, and it was roughly a little over 10% of that, between 2,000 and 3,000 comments all told from different parties. And I was at first I thought, as a data guy, man, that just seems low. And then the third party consultant we'd hired said, Mr. Mayor, that's 5 times higher than any response rate we've gotten in any other city over the last several years. I said, wait a minute, you're saying that the ordinary response rate is 2%, not 10+%? And they were like, oh yeah, if you get 2%, you're lucky. So our residents are really energized in terms of municipalities participating. Our folks understand that there's a comprehensive plan, understand their ability to input, and then when they show up, they're usually well informed. Although, as always, many people only show up at City Hall when they see something that is in their neighborhood and they don't like, and then they arrive sort of unprepared to express why that's wrong without understanding, as you said, the 5 years of work leading up to that decision. Yes.
Well, and you said all of that so well, because that's what I see happening. And all the way down to people not understanding that city council and mayor in most cities in Texas is a volunteer, or what I say, near volunteer role. It's not a career. It's not a city manager. It's not anything more than your peers representing the voice of the voters as we make decisions over a long period of time.
Well, I would agree. Um, as a retiree, I have the time to put the time in as mayor. All 6 of my council members are gainfully employed. And so they have their regular job on top of their volunteer committee work and then their council work. So that's an awful lot of hours to put in, on top of what they do for their families and friends, church, community. And so it is quite a lot. I'm often amazed at some of, a city our size, in the 20 to 30,000 sizes, at the point where the mayor is close to a full-time job. And I'm surprised some of the cities around me who have mayors who are also working. I'm like, boy, that's an awful big commitment for some of those younger folks, and I certainly applaud them. But it is an act of an act of service to your community. And as I've said time and time again, you wouldn't do this if you didn't love your neighbors and didn't love your community, because you're certainly not in it for the dollars.
If we could start those committee meetings with that idea, and the public meetings, welcoming the public to come share their ideas, but come with that attitude of these people are volunteers looking to do it what's right for the community, not themselves, not their agenda. It really is at the local level. What's in that master plan and how do we work within the statute, the law that we are allowed to make decisions on? And and I just applaud anyone that puts themselves out there to do this kind of work. And so thank you to you and the council and others that do it.
Well,
I want
thank you for saying that. You're more than welcome. We're happy to serve.
a topic that's coming up often in the Hill Country as I've talked to some cities and people across the Hill Country, and that is fire safety. I think we all saw the catastrophic flooding. We know the thunderstorms that come through your area. They can be really hard, ice storms, etc. But I see a real risk in our part of Texas around fire safety. And in rural Texas, out where near where I am, I see a lot of volunteer fire departments still, or ESDs are being put in place, and people are trying to understand what is an ESD. How does Lakeway look at fire safety, and how are you preparing for that moving forward?
So this is one of those ones where almost all the work occurs in a way that is behind the scenes. So we have our emergency services manager who helps us organize and coordinate with. So we have ESD 6 was our largest ESD. ESD 8, Pedernales, is the second ESD that we have. Then we have Travis County Resources. We have state parks and rec resources. We have state firefighting resources. We have liaisons to Texas A&M. And we have now had, while I've been mayor, I believe 5 coordination meetings with all these elements in the city of Lakeway. All the first responders, all the responsible fire agencies working together, chain of command, how you establish incident command, what the coordination is going to be, tabletopping all of these exercises in order to get ready for the day that you never want to see. And so fire safety is our big concern, but we have a fuels mitigation program. The city spends roughly $300,000 to $500,000 a year clearing underbrush, making sure that there are fire breaks around residences, making sure that the city parks are not going to be an incendiary source. And that's all the stuff that people see. What they don't see are, 500 hours of training and coordination and planning each year between all of the different agencies that we're doing. And to me, what started as a very concerning topic no longer keeps me awake at night, because I know my professionals have already worked through these things. And the emergency management plans are extensive. They've been vetted by the county. They've been vetted by the cities. And we can never make everything 100% safe, but I don't believe there's any more we can do that we haven't already put on the table. And what we need to just continue to do is refine and get better at the planning and coordination that we have already put in place.
Absolutely. And it's encouraging to hear you take that approach. For you to say it doesn't keep you up at night anymore because you know this stuff. I'm in the camp of it keeps me up at night because I don't always see that. So it's really refreshing to hear that perspective. And then the final ad that I would put there is back to private property rights. We all have a hand in that fire safety and that mitigation, fuel mitigation,
Oh, exactly.
and where your residents or anyone in Texas can go walk their fence line and say, I should probably move some of these things. That is incredibly helpful to all of those people you just listed and that have put in the work and put in the plan to make sure we all stay safe if and when that happens.
I agree.
Looking into 2026, what are you looking forward to in Lakeway, and what do you want to encourage people to remember or think about when they come to Lakeway?
Well, for 2026, uh, I'm happy because this is the 250th anniversary of our country. And so I think Lakeway has the best little 4th of July parade in the entire state. You know, we attract about 8,000 people, and we have about 1,000 participants. It's a great day here in the city. I look forward to celebrating our nation's birthday this year. It's going to be a great time. And things like the 4th of July parade, our small community events, our Halloween events, our Easter events, our Christmas lights on, those are the small town aspects that keep Lakeway's culture intact. So I'm looking forward to the fact that this year, all of those celebrations are not just celebrating the small town character of what makes Lakeway great, but also gives honor to our entire nation. And I hope it brings us together and helps lower sort of the temperature of discourse for our country.
I will look forward to the 4th of July for all of those reasons. And then Lakeway is a great place to do it. That parade, it is quintessential Texas American history. Thank you so much for your time today, Mayor Kilgore. It's a pleasure to speak to you, and I appreciate your optimism about where it's going, what's happening, and then getting a lot of work done. And kudos to the team that is giving you that response and giving you that confidence that Lakeway's prepared for the next year and long after that as well.
Well, thank you very much, Justin. It's been a real honor and a privilege to be with you today. I wish you the very best for the rest of the year.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us at the Building Texas Show. We're excited to share stories from across the state, covering the future of work and what Texas is going to look like over the next 50 years. Please like and subscribe on YouTube.